Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be virtually amongst you today, taking part in this session organized by the International Trade Center on making One Trade Africa a reality. The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in the early part of 2020 happened during a time where African countries had just signed one of the world's largest trade agreements at the 12th Extraordinary Summit of the African Union, which witnessed the launch of the African Continental Free Trade Area. By that time, the African member states began introducing continental-level structures to strengthen free trade among themselves. Due to the pandemic, the fulfillment of the AfCFTA was deferred. Travel bans, border closures, and lockdowns were introduced, resulting in strong negative implications on trade and mobility globally, but more specifically on the African continent. Nonetheless, member states acknowledged that free trade is not only about reducing and eliminating tariffs. Free trade makes way for greater economic activity and job creation, promotes regional economic integration, and builds shared approaches to trade and investment. Despite Africa being a resource-rich continent and a vast market consisting of around 1.3 billion people, African trade in goods and services still remains low, amounting to around 3% of global exports and imports on average, and Africa represents 6% of developing economies' total merchandise exports. Furthermore, intra-Africa trade is estimated to average 15% of total African exports. Africa's push for regional integration through the AfCFTA is envisioned to create new opportunities for businesses, ease travel across the continent and beyond, encourage the diversification away from Africa's traditional commodity exports, and avoid the volatile prices of which have affected the economies of many of our countries. UNCTAD estimates that the AfCFTA could boost inter-African trade by about 33% and cut the continent's trade deficit by 51%. Above all, the reinforcement of the AfCFTA improves and leverages the African negotiating position on the international stage and will aid in unlocking the potential of its people from national micro to global macro businesses. The expectations are high as relates to the expanded business prospects for entrepreneurs-led enterprises, especially those led by women and young entrepreneurs. Therefore, it is important to recognize the crucial role African women play in international trade. Women make up 58% of the continent's self-employed population. Unfortunately, women entrepreneurs across sub-Saharan Africa continue to earn lower profits than men, 34% less on average. Accordingly, Africa is considered a world leader in women business owners. Unlocking their potential can contribute to the continent's growth and prosperity. Empowering women entrepreneurs is simply smart economics. If you can help them grow, Africa economies will grow. For this purpose, the government of Egypt realizes that supporting AfCFTA's agenda will strengthen women's engagement in the intra-African trade, increasing their contribution in export growth to the African market. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, with Egypt's support towards regional integration, we have been working closely with our African brothers and sisters to incorporate the priorities of Africa 2063 agenda into the planning and the follow-up systems of its programs, namely within the sectors of economic and regional integration. Our strength is our unity. Collective efforts in promoting Africa trade is mandatory. Egypt is planning to increase exports to Africa from $5 billion a year up to $15 billion over the next 4 years. We are currently studying the needs of the African markets and focusing on Egypt's export distinct sectors of engineering, textile, pharmaceuticals, and agriculture crops. Ladies and gentlemen, our continent is facing challenges which have been exacerbated by the pandemic. These challenges include weak infrastructure, bureaucratic inertia, logistical constraints, tariff and non-tariff barriers, regulatory constraints, as well as limited capacity in keeping up with digitalization, e-commerce, and technology. Investment in research and development has become an increasingly critical factor and measure of national competitiveness in a globalized economy, compressed and interconnected by information and communication technology. And as a continent, we must continue to invest in innovation, science, and technology as an important factor of expediting our endeavor of making One Trade Africa a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, the key to unlocking the region's economic potential is through One Trade Africa. This session will give us the opportunity to examine prospects for reviving the idea of One Africa as a reality in a post-COVID era. Fostering a One Free Trade Africa that is inclusive will contribute to achieving the global sustainable development goals and getting closer to the Africa we want. Together with our partners and the ITC, we look forward to hearing from the distinguished experts, exchange views, and highlight proposed recommendations on how we can support making One Trade Africa a reality. Thank you.